What is the Internet of Things? Is it hardware, software, or both? Well, chances are you already have it in your pocket. It might be on your wrist. Recently popular are fitness bands with accelerometers and gyroscopes to monitor our activities and heart rate. Now we have smartwatches which do all of that, play music, and they can answer messages. Smartphones and tablets have replaced maps, secretaries, alarm clocks, entertainment, and now they can control our homes, change the TV, the temperature, security, and lights all from your device. Our cars are even getting smarter with sensors to keep us safe. The Internet of Things is simply using technology to mimic the human experience and simplify life.
Hello everyone, I want to welcome you to Charlotte IoT, and today I'm extra stoked because there's so many young faces in this crowd. We're excited. This group is for everybody, and we're all about teaching and learning and doing workshops and events like this. And we love having the youth here too, because we can learn from you guys can learn from us. And we're going to have super fun with the robots and with Jeremy's talk tonight. And today's been like an extra amazing day for Charlotte IoT because we had a lunch and learn earlier today with Nordic Semiconductor. It's like a double header with this awesome meeting tonight. So there's just like goodness all over the place with us. And we've been growing like crazy. We've now got 1,700 members. And we've been around for about 4.5 years. So we've been outpacing like every day, every holiday, every weekend. We gain a new member, and we're doing some really amazing things and having a great time. And it's just great to see us grow the way we are. And because our focus is all about learning and IoT in the area. And the reason that we are like so amazing are these people on this list. Stand up if you would, if you're on the board of Charlotte IoT. Okay. Amazing people. Yeah. So people handle like the venue, the swag, doing the workshops, and they do so much that it's just like amazing, and ordering the food and everything. It's really a lot, and we don't pay anyone in this in Charlotte IoT. Everyone just does it because they love it, and because they're awesome people, and they like to learn and grow and teach others and help the community. So really thank you guys. And we're on Facebook and Instagram. This would be a good time for Glenn. You want to mention?
Yeah, so I just posted a picture of Jeremy about tonight's talk. For everyone who leaves a comment, you'll have a chance to win Charlotte Knights tickets for Thursday night. We have really good seats, first row, third base dugout. So leave a nice comment about Jeremy, nothing mean. And we'll pick someone at the end to take the tickets home.
Yeah, it's got to be an awesome comment. So we'll only pick like the most awesome comments and then do a raffle with those.
Yeah, tag your friends, they should be here, things like that. Anything you do to help us spread the word.
And we're also on YouTube, and we want to really thank Joseph for streaming us. It's really been amazing. We're able to reach a much bigger audience. We have a group in Lake Norman who watch us, and we're live on the internet. And what's really cool too, if there's something that you can't quite remember, because there's going to be a lot of awesome nuggets tonight, and you just want to watch it again, you can watch it all you want on YouTube. So come back and see it over and over. And we have a Slack integration. So in Meetup, when you register at the end of your profile, you can enter your email address. And Mike was kind enough to make an integration so it goes into Slack. And inside of Slack, we have channels, and there's all kinds of what I call wizards, who people like Jeremy and others who are really good at IoT and can answer questions for you on Slack if you just post them. And if you have ideas and things like that, it's a great way to talk. And so for you guys too, if you guys need help on something, it'd be a good place. Say, I'm stuck on this one thing. Can you guys help? It's really good. And Christy Thomas is here from JobSpring, and she was kind enough to pay for dinner for all of us tonight. And please come up and tell us.
Thank you. So I'm with JobStream Partners. My partner Jake is here as well. We specialize in IT.
I'll stand next to you so you're on microphone.
Oh, okay. And so. No.
You do that all the time,
So what we do is a little bit different than some of the other staffing agencies. I know they all say that, but we really do. We have two different teams. We have an infrastructure team and a development team. And what that means is we solely focus on strictly like DevOps, network engineers, system engineers, and security-based roles. And then we have a totally different application team that helps you with JavaScript, .NET, front end, back end, you name it. So we're really here to help you and hopefully find the next opportunity, or if you don't know what type of opportunity you want, we're advocates to help you with your resume. We help you walk through the interview process. So if you guys have any questions about anything, we're here to help. I'm gonna leave my business cards over here. You can find us on LinkedIn, and we'll like I said, we'll walk you through the entire step of when you go to get your first interview, the phone screen, on-site. We'll give you tips and tricks. We'll help you spruce up your resume. We'll help you to navigate LinkedIn and how to utilize it to your best ability, because some people don't utilize LinkedIn at all, and it's a huge pivotal part in your job search. So we're really here to help you, and we hope to download and greet with you guys afterwards, all right?
Awesome.
Thank you.
If you guys have friends too who are looking for jobs, please grab her card. It doesn't have to be just for you, it's for anybody. And we'd like to support them since they're paying our dinner tonight. I'll do a little commercial in a second for my company, Pratt Miller, but actually I do it before yours, Graham. What's that? Oh no, you go first. I'm sorry.
So welcome everyone. I'm Graham Hardy. I work here at Snap AV, and so we've been great partners with Dan for quite a number of years now. And Snap is a company, just real briefly, we make a whole bunch of really cool products in the audio video space. So we make speakers, amplifiers, anything that you put into the connected home. And I have the wonderful privilege of running a software part of our division called Oversee, which is our IoT platform that allows our customers to connect all of those devices and to be able to remotely manage them. And we just, I don't know if you have my numbers up there, but our products up on the left, third-party products, all connect to our cloud Oversee through that. We just passed 3.6 million devices we have now connected to our cloud in about 200 and some thousand locations. So welcome everyone. Thanks for coming tonight.
Pretty cool to see Oversee grow. I mean, when we were first meeting, Graham, we were like, hey, we have 100,000 connected devices, and then the next meeting was like 200,000, and 300. The number keeps going up every time we hear it. And so I think that Oversee would be a great place to work if you guys, they do a lot of node and embedded type work. Talk to Graham about that. And here's the numbers. But it's a month old, so it's probably half of what it really is now. So a little bit about me. I'm Dan Thayer, president of Charlotte IoT, and last summer our company, Logical Advantage, you may have heard of us, we've been in Charlotte for 15 years. We were acquired by Pratt Miller, and Pratt Miller is a much bigger company than us, and they're headquartered in Michigan, and they do bigger projects with mobility and defense, and so it's bringing us much bigger IoT opportunities. So we're real excited that now we in this area we've been really focused on manufacturing, and we've got these other market segments here that really excited to build out and grow. And we've got this really amazing Jumpstart kit, and we're using OpenThread mesh that Google invented, OpenThread, and we have resilient messaging. So one thing with OpenThread mesh, there's no quality of service, but with ours we use storage cards, and we make sure that once the message gets to the cloud, it gets acknowledged and brought back. And one thing that we do that I don't see other people doing is sensor simulation. So all the sensors, we don't have like all the machines in our office, so we simulate the machines and we record with the values of the sensors that would be in a factory, and we play them back. And that way we can do end-to-end testing, and we do manufacturing. We have the simulators that simulate the sensors. We can validate that everything works. And all of our stuff, the Jumpstart kit's designed to work with commercial products, so you can plug things in without doing a bunch of engineering for a lot of projects. And over-the-air updates are really important in IoT. We can send code down to it. And segmented security, and what that's about is our local network got its own cellular gateway that's not part of the network of the factory, and we're using open thread, IPv6. It's pretty amazing. And so we've been developing this, and for most of our projects we're using Azure in the back end, and we've had really good success with this on some projects. And if you guys would like to talk, this is a picture of some simulated systems that are all on mesh. That's pretty cool. We always are hiring. So if you are DevOps, there's so many people here you can talk to. But I would talk to her first because she's buying us dinner. And we have the Lake Norman group who, if this is too far to drive, we have people like Mike who travel from Raleigh, but then there's other people in Lake Norman. There's like really bad traffic in Charlotte, and they meet up in Lake Norman, and this content is all streamed, and you can see it up there and join the community up there and meet with people who are in that area. Southeast Linux Fest. So Kirk told us about this conference, and he says it's amazing. Do you have anything you want to say about the conference?
It's 3 days. It's free if you want it to be free. You can pay money if you want to pay money. I mean, so they really just want you to come out and listen to the talks. It's mostly Linux-based stuff, but there is some other technology talks. So like in the past, they've talked about fire control systems in World War I ships.
Oh, sweet.
And, assorted topics. So you kind of have to look at if you go to their website, just download the topics, and maybe there's something you want to see, or spend the 3 days there. I mean, I spend the 3 days, learn more in the halls than you do in the well, I'd be in the halls. They have the lockpick group from Raleigh comes out. So if you want to learn about security, you sit down with those guys for 15 minutes, you'll know more about security than you ever will on the job.
Nice.
Because and you're just sitting there picking a lock.
So after Kirk told me about this conference, I went to the website and submitted a talk. I'll be talking on open thread mesh and some other open source technologies, some stuff from Microsoft Azure Sphere, which is their security device that's mostly open, and some other things that'll be really good. Yes, Mike?
When you sign up, they give you an option for, in case anybody's interested in this, a ham cram, license cram on Friday night, and a free ham license exam on Saturday night. So that's normally with the ham club it's $15. So if we're interested in doing that, free opportunity to get your ham license.
No, sweet. Sweet. All right. Our July meeting is going to be on lightning talks. And we haven't planned out all the talks yet. So if you guys would love to do a talk, I'd love to talk to you and hear what you'd like to talk about. But we're still scheduling it out. So please come talk to me on ideas you have for our July meeting. But our lightning talk meetings have been some of the best meetings because we'll get a real diversity of topics. And if there's one you're not so interested in, the next one will be amazing and it'll really interest you. And so they're always really fun talks. And then we have a really big meeting on Bosch IoT Suite and on Bosch sensors. And if you guys haven't heard of Bosch, then where have you been? Because Bosch is like one of the major big players, and I don't mean to be rude when I say where have you been, but they're a global leader in IoT. And Livingston and Haven is Bosch Rexroth's biggest distributor, and we're going to have it at their facility. And they've got a really cool innovation lab. And we get to have the meeting in their lab. They're renting extra tables and chairs for us in their big open lab. And we'll be able to walk through it and have a tour at the end and see the cool things they're doing. But some really famous people from Bosch will be presenting. We haven't posted all the names on the site yet because some more may fly in for the meeting. So it's going to be a big event and you won't want to miss it this August.
Any chance we could get them to speak on their motorcycle stability control, which measures a couple dozen parameters and controls a couple dozen?
I can ask them. So I have no idea.
Cool.
Yeah.
Because they make the best system.
Cool. Yeah, I'll see. And now, Mountain Island Charter School is going to talk. And we did a STEM event at UNCC, and they had this really amazing robots. And these kids were really into their robot. And they asked if they could come talk tonight, and like, hell yeah, you guys can talk. So
Nice job.
Xavier, if you could come up and tell us about your program.
Absolutely.
You just hit that to go forward.
All right. Hey, everyone. I am Xavier Robinson Fuentes, and as you know, we are Ice Job Robotics. I'm the team captain. We are from Mount Holly, North Carolina, based out of a school named Mountain Island Charter School. So our team is structured like this. We almost like kind of like a business-like structure. We have a team captain and our mentors at the top. Then we have subsections that each have a lead. So you have the mechanical design and mechanical and design leads, which are underneath. You have the CAD and SolidWorks designers and fabricators as well. Along with that, you have the programming and controls. You have Java developers. Anyone who uses Java, we use Java to build our programs for our robots, and electrical engineers. And then you have our marketing team, which does fundraising and marketing, how we got here, social media and communications, and purchasing. So we buy different materials for our robot for the team as well. So you might be asking, what is FIRST? And FIRST stands for Inspiration and Recognition of Science and Technology. It's founded by Dean Kamen, and if you don't know who that is, it's the guy who made the Segway. And his whole goal was so kids at young ages, starting at kindergarten, could eventually become engineers and workers in the STEM fields by the time they get out and they go to college. So FIRST Robotics isn't just like a club, because that's the common misconception we get. Oh, you guys are part of the robotics club. It's actually a sport. It's like it's a completely competitive sport. You sit here, you have 6 weeks to build a robot, and by those 6 weeks, if you're not done, you either got to figure out a way that you're going to compete or not. It's definitely an opportunity. I mean, you have a huge amount of opportunities here. You go to different competitions and you talk to each other. You meet a bunch of new people. You get a completely incredible experience. You get mentors, share all your experiences with other teams. So it does provide a useful modern skill set, and the fact that since this generation is the next generation of workers, especially for the STEM field, FIRST provides us with useful skills like how to use tools, how to fabricate, how to use SolidWorks to build chassis and designs, how to build electrical boards if you want to become an electrical engineer. All these different fields of engineering and STEM-based fields, there is opportunities for you as children who are going up through the pipeline from kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade. We do develop 21st century skills. For example, we develop all these skills using different tools that we're allowed to use, such as like on the physical side, drills, drill presses, saws, all that, to the technological aspect of programming and using cameras and such as well. Every January, we're given a challenge that's completely different to each year, where we have to do a series of tasks in order to compete and win the events in order to go on to higher and better events as well. So we have preseason events where we meet twice a week and we talk about what we're going to do. We do a little bit of outreach and we might build some stuff off season. Then you have the kickoff, which is in January 6th, where they give you the challenge. And your goal is to brainstorm and think about how we're going to succeed in this challenge. And then you have build season, which is 6 weeks and includes around 20 to 25 hours a week of work coming after school. Right after school, we have a little bit of session to do homework, and then we work until 8 o'clock, then we head home, including Saturdays and Sundays. And then you stop building on February 23rd. That's when you have to put your robot in a huge bag and zip tie it. And then you have competitions, which it depends on which competitions you go through, but essentially you compete against a bunch of different teams in the district level, then you go to state level, then you go to the world level in Houston or Detroit, depending on where your team's at. And you compete against 100 different teams from across the world. From, you have teams in the United States all the way from Turkey or Egypt. You have teams all across the world. So FIRST is quite expensive. We have a lot of tools. You have a lot of registration fees. Around just the registration alone costs around $2,100 or $21,000. We do apply for various grants in order to get the money, like the NASA grant, which you do get, and it does allow you to get rid of the registration fees. And we have student activity fees. And then we're trying to go for a Best Buy community grant, which gives us $10,000 to use on our team. essentially, the best way to success and longevity, especially in our school, where we're the only STEM field in our school, is to pretty much get sponsors. Sponsors from different companies, and not only sponsor materials and goods, but also mentors as well. Mentors are very valuable at first. They're very well respected. So we need you guys out here to help us in any way you can. And we're looking for funding, materials, and most importantly, mentors. Skills are the most important thing. Because otherwise, I mean, you can have the funding and materials, but if you don't know how to do with the different tools and materials, then what's the point? So mentors are extremely valuable. We have different levels of sponsorships. You can get different awards, different benefits if you choose different levels of sponsorships, especially when it comes to a lot of businesses like the prospect of having your business logo on the side of our robots. You can get shirts, you can get banners, all that. You can get thank yous on our website. Any amount of help is appreciated. So even if you can't, even if your business doesn't want to supply money, you still want to supply work, if you individually come out and say, hey, I want to mentor you guys, that's perfect as well. If you want any contact here, we have business cards that you can grab, and also all the information as well. And also, if you like, we have buttons and keychains if you want to get those too, free of charge. Thank you very much.
Awesome. So if you guys take a button or a keychain, then you have to help be a mentor. But I think it'd be awesome if some of the guys and gals from this group could help them out and be mentors. And I think you guys are the coolest kids in school too. You're amazing.
Thank you. We're not going to see the robot beat a toaster
Oh.
to death?
Oh, yes. If our driving team like to go up, we're going to drive it around a little bit.
This Jimmy Johnson or what?
Yeah, no. Set off the fire. We just set off the fire alarm. We didn't set the boat.
They're open to questions.
Yeah.
Does someone want to come up here? Max, do you want to come up here and explain the parts of the robot? Sure.
Hi, my name is Max, and I'm the engineering lead for our team. And this is the robot for 2 years ago. So our robot consists of a chassis and parts that will allow us to gain points. And we use different like parts such as gearboxes, motors, chains, pressure switches, pneumatics, and we use all of that to achieve the ways to get the points. So for 2 years ago, we had to deliver cubes from a human station and put them in a scale to get points. And what we decided was we would have this bucket, and people would place a cube in this bucket, and we had a chain connected to a motor. And what it would do is it would lift the motor and deliver the cubes to the switch. We also had another front attachment right here, which is not connected. But all of this was built in 6 weeks by us. We designed everything. We created a chassis, and then we went. You good? And then, yeah.
So that's just the compressor starting up. But we built the robot to be a faster robot so that we could quickly get to the other side of the field where these human player stations that he mentioned were, so that we could get the bricks that we needed to deposit in different places. So we had a much faster robot, and we put a lot of the work into the drivetrain, the thing that makes it move, so that it could hold up to people trying to push us around, because we were in the part of the field where all the other robots were, all the enemy robots, And obviously they didn't like us weighing down their switches, which prevented them from getting points. So we ended up being one of the, we weren't too successful in our actual games because we had some electrical issues at the time, but we made quite an impact in the community because people saw that a couple times that we did work that we were very scary to go up against because we kind of cut off any point gain that the opponent had.
Question?
Yeah.
So back when I did robotics at IBM, first starting out, and this was years ago, we had these light curtains around these robots that we were told, and it was obvious, could kill a person. And now people are designing human robots that interact on floors with people, and or humanoid robots that have soft joints. But it seems like your robot has a lot of capabilities, and you just said you made it run faster this year so you can get across the floor. What is today's youth being taught about robotic safety?
Well, we make sure to, in order to be entered into the competitions, we have to make sure that everything we do is safe. We've got inspectors that come over to our robot and take sometimes up to an hour to study our robot, make sure all the bumpers around the sides are exactly right, and they check all the wires everywhere across the entire robot. And if we don't have everything exactly perfect and safe, then we could just immediately be disqualified. And we've also got people that are safety captains who constantly make sure that everything is safe, because safety is one of the biggest concerns at first, and just robotics teams as a whole.
So does the bumper shut the robot off?
The bumper doesn't shut the robot off, but they make sure that because it's a big competition, so there are several referees, and if they spot if the bumper is being loose, or if it falls off, or if any part of the robot is about to become dangerous for any reason, they've got an emergency shut-off switch that they push from their referee stand.
Okay, so it's pretty clear that the robot was intended to run in the arena where there's no people.
Right.
But when you develop the robot, you've got the robot on the floor now there's four people and 5 people, and I know you trust the software, but I've seen software run amok, okay? So I can tell you with sincerity that you have no idea what your software is going to do. You think that it's completely safe, but there is an exceptional condition waiting out there where that robot is out of your control. And now if it's on the floor with a whole bunch of people, that's a pretty hefty robot. I imagine whether your bumpers are loose or not, it could hurt somebody, and it could certainly kill an animal. It might be able to actually severely injure a human. And I guess that's my question and point, is that back in the day, we had robots that were bolted down that didn't drive around, that could swing arms that could kill a person, and we took all sorts of incredible precautions that the developers all considered completely useless, because and sometimes we had to circumvent in order to actually get our jobs done because of the safety people involved. And that's the only point. It sounds like the lesson hasn't been emphasized in the past 20 or 30 years.
Well, first, has a major emphasis on safety culture. That's one of their major things. UL, they're one of the major sponsors at first. And so they want to make sure that we are safe while doing it. And not only in the workshops are we safe, we make sure we use the protective PPE, and we have all these different measures. We go over different measures. That the robot does this, here's what you do. And we make sure that everyone knows this is the specific safety precaution you have to go through in case of an error or a mistake in the robot. So, there has been a number of safety incidents, and that's bound to happen, but we make sure that, especially make sure that you are required to go through a very strenuous, safety precaution we have to make sure everyone's wearing safety glasses, everyone make sure, wearing safety equipment, open-toed shoes, make sure you wear long pants that are at least, jeans so they don't get cut. All these different safety precautions in order to make sure that there is no incidents. And, it is very safe at the competitions. You have very rare safety, safety accidents that will, or safety related accidents.
I appreciate those statements, but for example, at IBM, if you had a robot like this, you need to fence it in a light curtain that would deactivate the robot if it violated that perimeter. It wouldn't be a robot on the floor that was capable of driving into people. And I'm just that's what I'm being critical about, is the level of precautions. Your clothing and steel-toed shoes and goggles to protect your eyes aren't going to protect you from a robot run amok. Because it's going to drive into you and run over you.
That's always say, gosh, I don't have to worry about it.
The robot's weight's about 125 pounds, so.
That's always a thing to consider between companies especially.
Okay.
And
I may have run over the time elaborating on the point, but
Are you guys working on a lightsaber or anything?
but we also have other precautions such as an easy to access off button on the robot itself. And we also have emergency stop buttons in case the software goes wrong. And as you said, it's not as much as some companies do, but we've never had anyone be killed in our service. So.
Yeah, I think it's pretty amazing. It's not like it's an autonomous robot. It's running in an arena and there's all these kill switches.
Yeah.
It seems really good. But any other questions before we switch it over to Jeremy? So, yeah, please. Thank you, guys. Yeah, nice talk. But I love these kids. You guys are like really amazing. And here's another person I love, Jeremy, who is incredible. We had a cancellation for this meeting, and Jeremy's like the first one to raise his hand to say, hey, I can do a meeting. And he always helps us out whenever we're in need. And he also does our civic hackathons and some of our STEM hackathons. And just anything, he's just like a real amazing person that I thank you for everything you do for the group. It's incredible.
So,
What is the Internet of Things? Is it hardware, software, or both? Well, chances are you already have it in your pocket. It might be on your wrist. Recently popular are fitness bands with accelerometers and gyroscopes to monitor our activities and heart rate. Now we have smartwatches which do all of that, play music, and they can answer messages. Smartphones and tablets have replaced maps, secretaries, alarm clocks, entertainment, and now they can control our homes, change the TV, the temperature, security, and lights all from your device. Our cars are even getting smarter with sensors to keep us safe. The Internet of Things is simply using technology to mimic the human experience and simplify life.
Hi, I'm Jeremy. Tonight I thought we'd talk about the NVIDIA Jetson Nano, and I thought we'd take a little comparison against the Raspberry Pi tonight. The Jetson Nano has come out on the market. NVIDIA has been a huge player in GPU-based processing loads. So when we see it talk about all of the automated cars that are in San Francisco, whether you know it or not, those are primarily GPU-driven workloads that are calculating what the signs are, what the pedestrians are, what the other cars are. And all of that is done with huge rooms full of nothing but GPU power, right? So we're not using CPU, we're using graphics processing units. So there's a lot of work being done as far as vision detection and just AI augmented realities And then also looking at being able to process data workloads, whether that's something that you're going to do partly on the edge and then push up to IBM, or you're going to keep on the edge and then just push up stats from time to time, or aggregated information. There's a lot of uses for this. They have a JetBot. I have built one. They're really an amazing educational tool, I thought. Really clean. It's a couple 3D printed parts. It's about $150 in parts and $100 for the board itself. I had most everything on hand. And you can find stuff cheaper if you really want to do under $150. You should probably get it down to $100. One of the really cool things I love about this is they put an OLED display on it, right? So I can hook this up over HDMI, and I can use a computer screen, I can look at it. But when I'm out in the field, one of the things we can't do is carry around a monitor, carry around a keyboard, carry around a mouse, right? So this boots up and automatically shows my IP address on it. Which, if you think about it, I mean, it kind of just is just the way that this device was written, right? I'm a really big proponent of making things very, very usable, making them reliable. And that's just part of one of the great things that this, what they've come together to put together. There's a number of different test cases, vision test cases. I've not had enough time to play with all of them yet. But there's obviously obstacle detection, meaning you can make it look at an obstacle and turn. You can make it look at different people and determine whether you're a person or not. It can do object following. So if you take an object, you can make it follow that object, right? So, you know, take 20 pictures of my cat and then have a ton of fun all night long. NVIDIA, I thought this was a great little write-up, so honestly, I stole it. NVIDIA has been in the machine learning and AI game for a number of years now. Again, we've seen that, right? So anything from password cracking to, you know, GPU workload for AI or anything else. The company launched the Jetson T1 supercomputer on a module back in 2015 as a embedded solution for robots, drones, self-driving vehicles. Basically, the idea was to make a very expensive, $700 expensive Raspberry Pi type thing that was GPU-based, right? So that you could do this augmented GPU-based workloads in an embedded fashion. It was the start of a whole new range of AI projects for NVIDIA. They say there's now hundreds of thousands of Jetson developers today, probably mostly in the universities. Sorry.
Or local high schools.
Some of them, not the one I went to. While it was a workable solution for commercial enterprise, the $600 price tag just made it out of the range for most people, right? Today, that all changed. The Jetson Nano is $100. They are a little hard to get. I will tell you, if you want one, go to NVIDIA's website, okay? I had 4 shipped very, very fast off the website. Choose second-day air shipping. You'll get them because they'll push you up in the line. The other thing is I got 2 off Amazon very, very quickly, within a week or 2. Now, they sell for $99. It is not unusual to see them for $150 because they're getting a little scarce right now. Everyone wants them. There's a couple of reasons why. So this is a comparison between the Jetson Nano and a Raspberry Pi. And I just thought the very first thing was very, very cool. So I don't know if you know this or not, but a Raspberry Pi runs about half the processing speed without a cooling system. So you run a Raspberry Pi, and if you don't put a heat sink on it, and you don't put a fan on it, it will drop its speed automatically and will run at about half of its possible speed. Something to remember for people running Raspberry Pis. They're not very powerful either. 3 gigaflops. 6 with a fan. The Nano, 472. Talk about some speed, right? Now that's with the GPU, so let's not lie. That's not all CPU power, but that's a lot of power. The processor, again, you're going from a Cortex A53 to an A57, and you're popping that speed up just a little bit too. I will tell you, these typically, at full workload, they do require a fan. They will get hot. And then my favorite part is, instead of 1 lowly gigabyte of RAM running at 900 megahertz, we run some real RAM, 4 gigs of real RAM at 25 gigabits per second, which, if anyone wants to do the math, that's what 3,000 or 3 gigahertz, something like that. I don't know where they're saying there's 16 gigs of eMMC on the board. There is not. Obviously, video encoding, decoding, and stuff, you can run Doom on these. Just saying, when's the last time we ran Doom on a little $100 device, right? Which is really, really cool. It's got the same camera connector that you'd find for a Raspberry Pi, which makes finding a camera very, very easy. For a lot of the augmented reality stuff, you want a wide-angle camera. This can be a little harder to find. The one they suggest for the JetBot is about $30, right? That's not bad, right? There are a whole bunch of other cameras. Intel has one that has range finding on it as well, infrared, so it's got infrared range finding and 2 cameras, so it can do depth of field as well. You are able to use those. I will tell you, they process very slowly because you're processing infrared, depth of field, right? And multiple visions at the same time, but it's definitely doable. It definitely does work with this. It's got every port you'd want on it. Obviously, we're still limited by the SD card. It boots from SD. You can get it to boot from SD and then push the boot cycle back over to USB. Future versions, the firmware is supposed to be updated in order to allow us to boot right off of USB. With USB 3.0 being what it is, we can start getting up to drives with 200, 300 megabits per second. One of the things that really disappoints me about this board is that it has an M.2 slot on it, but it only has 1 channel. That means there is no use of M.2 memory, which of course has 3 gigabits worth of speed. If anyone's not run a machine with M.2, PCI 4X RAM, SSD, let me tell you what, you are missing out. Obviously, it's got some USB on it, right? You'll see up here it's pictured as a module. That's because it comes as a module on a carry board. The carry board has power, Ethernet, USB, DisplayPort, and HDMI. It has a 5-volt input. Oddly enough, in order to maximize the power input, you have to put 5 volts, 3 amps on 2 separate pins on the header. And that'll get you 6 amps to the board. The barrel connector will handle up to 5 amps. The USB connector, which is what we're using on the JetBot, can only handle 2 amps. So you cannot maximize your processing power using the USB adapter, right? It just won't do it. So and it does have power management on it, which will allow us to say what kind of power we're using. So
Jeremy, it requires 5 volt and 3 amp.
Huh?
5 volt, 3 amp is the required input.
Yeah, so no, 5 volts, 6 amps.
6 amp.
is the max power you can put in.
30
But,
watts, wow.
but it's got to be put in as on 2 different pins, 5 volts, 3 amps on one pin, 5 volts, 3 amps on another pin.
Okay.
The barrel connector will handle up to 5 amps, which honestly probably gets you everything you need. Probably run everything you want on this. I will tell you, if you're running it off of 2 amps, it is going to go slower.
Okay. No,
So-
my question was just if it can be solar powered, that's what it was. It looks like. No.
Yeah, the pins.
We can?
You can, so the GPIO pins,
Yeah.
if you put 5 volts in on those, you can get up to 6 amps. You can input up to 6 amps. So, any questions at this point about the hardware itself?
Can the USB take a hub, and could you use a USB camera as input?
Yes, and yes. So the base operating system is Linux, right? So anything you can use in Linux, anything that's got an ARM-based driver will work, which is like half the webcams ever made. Can you put a hub on it? Absolutely. No restrictions there. These are USB 3.0, which makes me excited because obviously we can actually put a real drive on it. Samsung makes the smallest, fastest drive out there. Samsung drive on it, 200 to 300 megabits per second. Max speed on those.
Powered externally, though.
Well, no, I mean just a little USB drive that looks like a little dongle.
Oh, okay, little
Yeah.
What is it called?
quarter-sized hard drive.
Yeah, it looks like a quarter of a regular USB stick, right?
It
So,
just looks like the mouse dongle.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
that size. What is it called? I forgot.
dongle,
No, they have a specific name for that.
micro dongle.
Okay.
Small dongle.
We'll buy that.
Wow, now getting personal here.
Quarter-sized USB drive.
I see it's got a micro SD. Is that just storage, or is it also like with
So
the Raspberry Pi? You're putting the operating
just like
system on that.
just like the Raspberry Pi, you put the operating system on the micro SD. The micro SD actually goes into the module, not the carry board. Slips in. However, there are a number of Linux tricks. There's that allow you to basically, you can boot from the SD card and then tell the boot sequence to look at the USB drive for the actual boot sector and then boot from the USB. However, it does require you to have the SD card installed. You actually boot off the SD card. It's like telling Windows, hey, start on C. Oh, Windows is actually on D. Let's boot up from D. Yeah, so it's like that, right? So,
Okay.
so it is possible. Next versions of firmware are supposed to allow for USB-based booting. I would love to see them boot from the M.2 because it's so much faster. So much faster. Plus,
Really?
it's not only embedded, it's more stable than a USB drive.
So the state, I just Googled NVIDIA Jetson on the eMMC, and the statement that they made earlier was that the pre-boards shipped before June wouldn't have the eMMC on it. So that's why it's missing from yours, and people getting the production boards after June will get the eMMC interface.
Oh, sounds like I'm sending something back to Amazon.
That's good.
I was going to say, I mean, if I can.
No,
Any other questions about the hardware? We'll go on to the next topic. The speed isn't just the GPU. I want to make that very clear. This is not just a GPU that's sitting there and running all the code. The CPU is actually faster, right? The RAM, we've got more of it, runs at a faster speed. Okay? It's always two things that are very good. The bottleneck is still that SD card, right? And it's lethargic. I use SanDisk, high-speed memory cards for everything to do with the Raspberry Pi. I can tell you that this thing in desktop mode going around onto Windows, it's just a tad lethargic, right? So it needs a little bit more in the way of disk throughput in order to make it really, really usable. Hopefully the USB boot will fix that problem. With these devices, there's a lot of talk about what use cases are available. So I thought I'd walk through a couple, right? We've talked about edge computing. How many people know what edge computing is? How many people could state a really good business-backed, revenue-saving use case for an edge? There you go. It's kind of the problem. We know what it is. We really don't understand how it can save us money, how it can make us money, what it provides for the customer. So I thought we'd go through a couple of use cases tonight. So the very first one, localized control, isolate your systems from the master control system to ensure reliability, especially in locations where internet can be spotty. So let's take someplace like rural Iowa, where my parents live, who just got off a dial-up about 5 years ago, and their internet provider who is sometimes on, sometimes off, right? Or even better yet, a location that is cellularly driven for internet, right? So weather can cause an issue. Sometimes a power outage at the plant could cause an issue. So there's a lot of use cases where we talk about not having control or not having internet at the point of control. A lot of this is vehicle-based. Now, we all take for granted that the United States, we can get internet service on our phones everywhere. Having written applications, field applications for appraisal in use in North Carolina and Virginia now, I can tell you that you can't accept that a tablet will be online all the time, because you do and you will have a lot of dead spots, regardless of the internet carrier you use, regardless if you try to go to a 3-watt radio, regardless of all those things. There's just times when you can't get to the internet, right? Localizing some control systems down to the device itself, down to the automated system, whether that's ride control, or let's say you want to build a sprayer system on the side of a rig for spraying fields that's GPS controlled. It allows you to know how much you're spraying, where you're spraying it at. All those things require something with a little bit of brains, but it doesn't need internet all the time. It can do a lot of the processing locally. Just bring down what you're going to do, let it know, and let it process, right? We've seen from previous speakers where they've used LoRa on campuses where they're not able to get a good Wi-Fi signal from pole to pole, or the Wi-Fi signal just isn't going to be robust enough to go the distance they want, right? So in that kind of instance, putting edge control on this type of device allows you to put that in play. When we talk about reliability, here's the other thing. If I'm using this for an edge control system, and then I'm taking the information, I'm sending it up to the internet, right? Now I've got a control system locally, and then I can have a secondary checkup up in the cloud, right? So I can say, okay, it turned right. Did it turn right? Let's see, did it turn right? Yes, it turned right, okay. So now we have two systems verifying each other, making sure that things are working like they should. That's where reliability comes in. Number 2, offloading compute and aggregation of information before sending to the cloud can not only save cost and time, but comes at the cost of latency. Anyone know what that means? You don't count, do you? I'll give you a real good use case, right? This is actually one that I'm working on now. So We just purchased a brand new system that allows us to take in anytime someone hits our website at LendingTree. Okay? Every cached request, every response, everything. 300 gigabytes a day of data. 300 gigabytes a day. That's a lot. I'll tell you how expensive that is to put into a log aggregation system. $170,000 a year. That's real money. So instead of doing that, we're actually offloading those logs to a separate system. Now, if that information is coming from someone's house, and we're aggregating information like temperature, or we're aggregating information like different responses coming from the microwave, or different vibrations coming from somebody's pool system, or from a dishwasher, or whatever, we can take all those readings, and instead of saying, at 1 minute it said this, at 2 minutes it said that, at 3 minutes it said that, at 4 minutes it said this, at 5 minutes, we can now take that huge amount of information, we can aggregate it, and we can say, between this 15-minute period, this was the responses we got, and this is how many we got. Very, very simple aggregation. And now, instead of sending, a meg worth of data, we can send a couple K worth of data up to the cloud. Now imagine that across a customer base of 300,000 people who have the same appliance. Right? Now we're talking about some real savings. There's a cost, latency. We have to wait for that time period to go by before we can get that information done. So I have to wait 15 minutes so I can count the events in that 15 minutes before I can send that period's data up to the cloud. The more you aggregate, say you make it an hour, the more latent your data becomes. That could be okay. If we're talking about temperature variations in a washing machine, or whatever, we could even aggregate over a week's time period and push it up every week, right? And then you move on to let's take a look at the last one. Adding AI on the edge allows for a normal state to be responded to locally while allowing for assistance from the outliers from the cloud. Well, now I can take that refrigerator that's operating with some AI that says, hey, I'm going to get colder at 2 o'clock in the afternoon because I know that Jeremy gets home at 4 and he likes to go have a snack. So he's going to open the door and he's going to make me a little hotter inside. So I'm going to make it a little cooler inside to kind of adjust for that, right? It's kind of nestish. Is that a word now? Can we use that? Nestish. So my nestish refrigerator says, okay, Jeremy's going to come home normally around 3 or 4. He's going to open that door. I'm going to get colder. And so I'm going to prepare for that, right? Going to make sure that it's getting colder a little bit before 8 o'clock when my wife likes to go make coffee and get out the gallon of milk, right? So it's able to, on its own, learn our habits and then react to it, okay? Now here's where the outlier comes in. What happens every 3 months? A little bloody light. I'd like you to spend money on filters, please. It's the little blinking little, revenue after the sale light. So what happens at that point is, now the AI has been working locally. This outlier sends a message up to Frigidaire. Frigidaire says, hey, Jeremy, 20% off a filter if you buy it right now because I know you need one. How do I know you need one? Because I told you we needed one. Because the AI said you needed one, right? It can even do things like go, hey, you've been using water faster. And that's an anomaly, right? And it could say, Jeremy, you're going through like gallons of water in an hour. I think there's a leak. Let me send you a message. Again, another outlier that we wouldn't normally use in the AI locally, but that we use outside of that, okay? Do those use cases kind of start making sense? Does somebody in here think that they might know of a way they might be able to save more money now based on those use cases? Just Dan again? Love you, Dan. Increase responsiveness by reducing the input and output time, decrease latency, and provide faster service to the customer. My bloody Netflix. Every time you hit the button, you gotta wait. Hit the button again, you gotta wait. Hit the button again, you gotta wait, right? Why can't it cache some stuff locally? Why can't it figure, hey, Jeremy, when he goes to bed, he's going to watch The West Wing, so why don't we cache an episode of West Wing, right? Which is, by the way, true. I've watched West Wing every night for the last 12 years. Odd things about Jeremy we don't need to know. What we're talking about here is we're talking about making decisions locally, because time to go to cloud and back, time to process, time to go out and grab information to control a system can take time, right? Not only that, when it's out, when that service is not available, you're no longer able to do something. Now, a typical round trip time for something controlled by the web should be something like, what, 250 milliseconds? 100 milliseconds? In a really good system? Mike?
10. Yeah.
All right.
It's only about 55 milliseconds coast to coast. So.
Yeah. So, and then you got some processing time. You got to fire up that Lambda, right? You got to go to the DynamoDB database. You got to pull in some information. You got to process it a little bit. You got to spit it back out. Probably do an OAuth trip as well, just because we want to make sure everything's secure, right? And then return everything back through Alexa, because as we know, everything runs through Alexa. If we localize that information, we localize all of that, we can allow for faster response times. That means when I say, Alexa, turn the light off, it goes off, instead of going da 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 da, click, right? Which is what happens sometimes in everyone's house when we use Alexa. So bringing that processing down locally, whether that's voice processing, which they're starting to look at doing on the edge, or whether it's vision processing, right? Being able to unlock computers and doors, stuff like that. We can start doing that now on the edge instead of sending it up to the cloud. Here's a really cool thing you should all know. Cloud computing costs money. How many people here has ever gotten an AWS bill? Or an Azure bill? Or paid peak 10? All right? I don't care. You start running Lambdas like they do around here for the control system, and you start talking about some real money, right? You start talking about trying to log 300 gigabytes a day. You're talking about some real money. And so the more we can do on the edge, the more we can use the customer's power and put it into the customer's hands, the less we're actually paying on the edge, on the cloud, right? So the more I can process locally, and the less I have to use the cloud, the better it's going to be for your AWS bill. So that's another reason why we should look at a lot more edge-based applications. One of my favorite ones, though, is just reliability, right? That's why I've got a Lutron system, because it operates entirely cloud-free, internal to the network, which means I don't have to worry about, if I need Alexa to do something with it, yeah, it's going to take a minute or two, and that is cloud-based. But any switch I put on the wall, any remote control, any zone systems that I set up, push a button, they always work, always. Why? Everything's local. So, questions about the edge? That's all I got.
Question about the edge. So
Yes.
you got one. I got one. Have you run a app yet?
Run an app?
Have you run some, vision processing on it?
So, I've taken some pictures. I will have to apologize. Last week, me and my insurance card took a trip to the hospital. That's always a good 3 days, right? As long as they find out, oh, they got the real good insurance. So I was, poked and prodded and everything else. I'm fine, by the way. Probably the only person in Charlotte that can say I'm completely cancer-free, having been scanned my entire body. Don't ask. Don't have an inverted T wave on your EKG. That's all I got to say. So,
Can you go up against 6894? Can you?
Yeah. The robot.
oh, I think it's smarter.
That's probably true.
It's probably faster too. You do a race.
The robot has more inputs.
It has an AI text instrument RoboRio without the graphics processing unit, but there are graphics processing units made by NVIDIA that are used in FLC specifically for vision processing.
Oh, well, then those are probably kick-ass.
Yeah, those are really
So you can say it has got TensorFlow in it, kind of.
Well, so here's the thing about the NVIDIA stuff, right? This isn't their first rodeo. They've had the TX2 out for quite a while. They've had a couple other boards out for quite a while. This isn't the first time they've done this. So you walk in to a $99 platform with this 3 to 4 year development cycle behind it that's pushed all of these things to the boards that they used to have. They built this so it's compatible, just a little less power. So now we've got 3 years worth of development built into to rely on to build this. So can you run TensorFlow? Yes, you can run TensorFlow. You can run a majority of the AI stuff that's out there, including image recognition, where can you recognize what an image is, right? There was an award-winning image recognition library that was done just recently that won all kinds of awards that everyone's using now in their, that one can be used. Facial recognition, which is my favorite, that can be used. Object recognition. Oddly enough, the biggest thing that they're having a problem with is edge detection. So edge of table detection, which is kind of tricky, right? And we're not quite sure how you solve that without adding some kind of distance censoring, because it's not, there's no good science behind it. And I do know that all of the examples that they've run on this have the same problem. If the table is white and the object I'm trying to avoid is green or black, and I program it for the green and black object, it'll avoid them. Put a yellow object on the table, it won't. Change the table to green, it won't work. So it's very, very rudimentary. You have to be very careful, right? So, but we're talking about training with like 40 images normally with the samples they're talking about, right? So realistically, in order to get into some real good edge detection and stuff like that, you really do need to go with something that's got either infrared or, I think high contrast black and white's probably a good thing too, a good possibility for processing. Infrared sensors or, whatever kind of sensors you want.
What if we broadcast your own mesh and that's what it's reading curves?
Right, exactly, yeah.
I grew up in Bay City, and at one time Bay City had two companies, Industrial Brown Hoist and Bay City Shovels. So I don't know, maybe some older people have remember seeing a crane or a shovel with Bay City on the back. It's made in Bay City, Michigan, but they had those on like the oil platforms, and some developer defeated the light curtain, and some operator rode a crane, crane at the size of this room off the edge of a oil platform. Whoops. It's just kind of funny that I can imagine them watching it go over the side.
I wonder if Amazon delivers cranes.
A pretty expensive crane.
There have been lots of industrial robotics deaths, and one of them at IBM that happened while I was a developer in robotics was Lytton Stacker crane, which is a big, pallet carrying device.
Right.
And somebody violated the safeties on it and didn't use lockout tagout devices on the EMOs and had it powered off. And so somebody saw the crane off and powered it back on and crushed the guy. So, it used to happen all the time, and over time it happens less and less. But
Well, that's because we moved the industry to China, and it happens there.
Well,
And there they don't care. They don't have signage that say it's been 32 days since last injury. But
no, they actually, when they get disappointed with business productivity, they go up to the top floor and jump off the building.
Well, one of the things that you see though is you see in most manufacturing facilities, it's kind of interesting. It's like the old IT problem, that you've got a $3 million label machine that labels cans and was built 10 years ago, runs only on Windows XP, and the company's out of business. And the IT director says everything needs to be Windows 10 compliant. What do you do with a $3 million label machine that only runs Windows XP, that nobody wants to do anything with, and the IT guy is smart enough to say, I back up the hard drive byte copy by byte every week, just to make sure that we don't lose this thing, right? What do? I mean, it's the same problem in industry all the time. The technology keeps going, but the industry doesn't. It's like shared passwords in technology, or in factories.
It's a return on investment, definitely. They have invested $3 million, they have not recouped that amount, so they'll have to use it. Purpose like that.
Yeah, I mean, and it's very common. So when we talk about industrial uses, right,
also another one, yes.
it's not uncommon to see that what the mainstream wants is not physically possible. And that's unfortunately just the realities of life.
That's true.
I don't mean to get on a soapbox, but I mean, it's how we live. It's the difference between the gray world that is and somebody somewhere in corporate saying, we need to be on Windows 10.
Yeah.
And you can't. Dan.
Just a quick comment. A lot of the AI systems, like the one Microsoft's created with Azure Edge, IoT Edge, it's not going to run on a Raspberry Pi. It's running in Docker, and you're not going to run Docker well within like a Raspberry Pi. You're going to use something like this. And it's not just Microsoft. Almost all the major companies are building things are running inside of Docker and in virtual environments. So NVIDIA is like...
That reminds me, the base build of the OS for the base device, not the robot device, the base device, has Docker, comes with Docker.
Very sweet.
It also comes with a GUI, which I don't agree with. But that's
I don't know why you can't run Docker on an ARM. I do it all the time.
And then one other comment is for like the table edge detection, Microsoft has recently come out with their Azure Connect, and it uses infrared and can detect like how far away things are and things. And you notice it's called Azure Connect. It's not called like Connect for Xbox. So it's made for for IoT and for business systems.
Another question in the back.
Oh, I wanted to know what kind of range that your infrared ranging was.
Well, it would depend on your sensor. right? So
I mean, the thing you're talking about from Intel.
I don't know, I'd have to look. There are different models of it. They range anywhere from $100 to $300, $400, $500, I think.
But your impression is like a room, I mean, 20 feet?
I honestly don't know.
Okay.
The sensors I would use, like the point of flight sensors, stuff like that, they can go 2-3 meters, maybe. But they'd have problems up close. You wanted something for up close, like at the bottom of the robot. You'd want something that's got a shorter range, right? So you wouldn't necessarily, for edge detection, you wouldn't necessarily want something with a very long range.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about, using it on a video camera and trying to find out if there's something moving in the field of view. And so, I mean, it might be a mile away.
A cat?
Yes.
I want to recognize the boat on water. So you got a lot of noise, and you got
It all depends on
clouds.
resolution, because you can broadcast it by minute, and it's how big the object is in the distance.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. And same thing with infrared. I mean, the closer your sensor is to the edge, the more accurate it's going to be. The farther away it is, the longer, the more capacity it has to detect range. That 20-meter range on it, in order to get that 3-inch detection range, it's going to be pretty hard. But if I put a device on this 1 meter range, pulling that back down to 3 inches is going to be pretty easy. So it's kind of got to get the sensor you need for the job. So. Questions?
Maybe we can hear from the students what they want to do when they graduate high school and
I would
graduate
tell
college
each and
and
every one
stuff.
of you what I heard when I was volunteering at first up in Virginia. That there is an engineering job for each and every one of you out there. It's no joke that there's a recruiter here. Dan's hiring. I mean, we're all hiring, right? You come to me, I'm hiring. I've got more work than I can fill, and I got money to hire people. I can't find them. I can't. Study hard, right? Read a Dale Carnegie book once. Do yourself a favor. Study hard, come in and show me your GitHub. Show me what you've done. Show me your accomplishments. Work hard. And I mean, it's just that simple, right? And we're not talking about minimum wage, jobs here. We're talking about jobs that make serious money. So, I mean, the jobs are out there. There's no lack of them. There will not be a lack of them. So, stick with it and, yeah.
Awesome, Jeremy. That was
Thank you, Jeremy. And I really appreciate Jeremy jumping in at the last minute when we had a last minute cancellation, because usually we get people a couple months to get ready for a talk like this. And thank you, Jeremy. So Glenn has given us 4 tickets to the Knights game. And we're only going to give it away to people who said really nice things on Facebook or Instagram. And do you have a count as to how many people said really nice things?
5 people.
5, all right. So I'm going to do a random number between 1 and 5.
How many not nice?
3. Who's number 3?
3 is Sean Driscoll.
Sean. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Glenn, for the tickets, too. So that's all we have tonight. And if you guys want to talk to Jeremy after the meeting, or, oh, yes, you have an announcement?
your IoT jump kit.
Yes.
Is it only meant for Azure or any other environment too?
No, it'll work in any environment. So it's more of the embedded work and the hardware that's locally, that's on open thread. So yeah, you can connect it to any cloud.
And where is that?
Where is it?
Where do you get that?
Call me.
Okay.
Yeah. Did
One question on IPv6.
IPv6, what about it?
So what was your experience in bridging IPv6 thread devices to IPv4 and the rest of the world?
I'll just talk to my general on connectivity issues. We spent a whole month on resolving defects and issues to make it really resilient. And we did all kinds of things to fix those types of issues, where just a whole bunch of devices running simulations and things like that. But specifically on IPv4 to 6 or 6 to 4, I can't remember having issues around that.
Just a router.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for coming tonight, and don't forget next month are the lightning talks. So please come talk to me if you guys would like to present. That's our meeting.
What is the Internet of Things? Is it hardware, software, or both? Well, chances are you already have it in your pocket. It might be on your wrist. Recently popular are fitness bands with accelerometers and gyroscopes to monitor our activities and heart rate. Now we have smartwatches which do all of that, play music, and they can answer messages. Smartphones and tablets have replaced maps, secretaries, alarm clocks, entertainment, and now they can control our homes, change the TV, the temperature, security, and lights all from your device. Our cars are even getting smarter with sensors to keep us safe. The Internet of Things is simply using technology to mimic the human experience and simplify life.